When the paramedics wheeled her into St. Catherine's emergency on a rainy October night, the girl had no identification, no fingerprints in any system, and a wound that shouldn't have existed. What they thought was a stab wound turned out to be something far older. The attending physician would later describe it as a puncture consistent with medieval weaponry, but that wasn't the strangest part. The strangest part was that according to every database, every search, every facial recognition scan, the girl bleeding out on their gurney had never been born. Her eyes opened for just a moment in the ambulance. Green eyes, impossibly bright, locking onto the paramedic's face. She whispered 4 words in a language he didn't recognize, then went still. By the time they reached the hospital, her pulse was barely detectable. The ER team worked frantically, calling for blood, prepping for surgery, shouting vitals across the chaos of fluorescent lights and sterile panic. Dr. Sarah Chen led the team, her hands steady as she cut away the girl's clothing. That's when they saw it. Not just the wound, which appeared to be from some kind of blade, but the symbol carved into her collarbone. An ancient cross, 8-pointed, unmistakable to anyone who knew history. The cross pate, the mark of the Knights Templar. Sarah's hands froze for half a second. She'd seen that symbol before, in her grandfather's books. He'd been obsessed with the Templars, convinced they'd hidden something profound before their order was destroyed in 1307. She used to think it was just an old man's fantasy. Now that same symbol was scarred into the flesh of a teenage girl with no identity, bleeding from a wound that defied modern explanation. They stabilized her. Barely. Sarah ordered a full workup, blood tests, imaging, everything. But when the results came back, nothing made sense. The girl's blood type was O negative, common enough, but her antibodies showed exposure to diseases that had been eradicated decades ago: smallpox, plague. Her bone density suggested malnutrition from childhood, yet her muscle tone indicated recent, intense physical training. And when they tried to log her into the system as a Jane Doe, the computer rejected the entry 3 times. No reason given, just an error code that IT had never seen before. Sarah stayed with her through the night. Hospital protocol said she should have moved on to other patients, but something kept her there, watching the girl's chest rise and fall in shallow breaths. At 3:47 a.m., the girl's eyes opened again. She sat up so fast that Sarah stumbled backward, knocking over a tray of instruments. The monitors went wild, alarm shrieking, but the girl yanked the IV from her arm with terrifying calm. "Where is he?" she asked in perfect English, though her accent was strange, archaic. "Where is the Guardian?" "You need to lie down," Sarah said, reaching for the call button. "You've lost a lot of blood." "The Guardian," the girl repeated, and there was desperation in her voice now, raw and urgent. "An old man. He would have come here. He always comes." "There's no one else here, just you. What's your name?" The girl looked at her with those impossibly green eyes, and for a moment Sarah saw something ancient there, something that didn't belong in the body of a teenager. "My name is Ilara. I've had many names, but that one has been mine the longest." Sarah's medical training told her this was delirium, trauma, shock. But her instincts, the same instincts that had kept her grandfather up at night, drawing maps of Templar routes across Europe, told her something else entirely. "Who hurt you?" she asked quietly. "The same people who have been hunting us for 700 years, Ilara said. "We thought we'd outlasted them. We were wrong." Before Sarah could respond, the power cut out. The whole hospital plunged into darkness for exactly 3 seconds. When the backup generators kicked in, there was a man standing in the doorway. Sarah hadn't heard him enter. He was old, maybe 70, with silver hair tied back and eyes that held the same strange quality as Ilara's. He wore a long coat, soaked from the rain, and when he moved, Sarah noticed he walked with the careful precision of someone who'd spent a lifetime training for combat. "Ilara," he said, and his voice cracked with relief. The girl tried to stand, wavered, and he crossed the room in 3 strides to catch her. "I thought you were dead," she whispered. "I thought the same of you." He looked at Sarah then, and his expression shifted to something harder. "Doctor, I need you to forget you saw her. Delete every record, every scan, every note." "I can't do that. She needs treatment. She needs to disappear," he interrupted. "And so do I. They're already looking for her. If they find her here, everyone in this hospital is at risk." Sarah's rational mind fought against what she was hearing, but she couldn't ignore the fear in his eyes. Real fear. The kind that comes from experience. "Who's looking for her?" The old man glanced at Alara, then back to Sarah. "Tell me, doctor, has your computer system been acting strangely tonight? Errors you can't explain? Programs shutting down on their own?" Sarah's blood went cold. The registration system, the repeated errors. "How did you know that?" "Because they're already in your network. They've been trying to erase her since the moment she arrived. She's not supposed to exist, you see. None of us are." He helped Alara toward the door, supporting her weight. "We're ghosts of an order that was supposed to die centuries ago, but some secrets are too dangerous to let die with their keepers." "The Templars," Sarah heard herself say. "You're actually—" "The last ones," Alara said softly. "We've been protecting something, a truth that would shatter certain foundations if it ever came to light. They've been trying to kill us for it. Tonight, they almost succeeded." The old man pressed something into Sarah's hand. A coin, ancient and heavy. The same 8-pointed cross stamped into the metal. "My name is Marcus. If they come asking about the girl, you never saw her. The records will back you up. They'll be gone by morning. But if you tell anyone what you've seen here, they'll know. And they'll come for you too." Sarah looked down at the coin, then back up, but the doorway was empty. She ran into the hallway, but it was deserted. Just the quiet hum of machines and the distant beep of monitors. She checked the security footage later, hands shaking as she scrolled through the feeds. The cameras showed her entering the room. They showed her alone, standing in the middle of the floor, talking to no one. For 6 minutes and 43 seconds, she'd been alone in that room, speaking to empty air. But the coin was real. She could feel its weight in her pocket. And when she pulled up the patient records, there was nothing. No Jane Doe admission, no trauma case. The surgical bay she'd been in showed as unused all night. Even the blood they'd drawn was gone from the lab logs. It was as if the girl had never existed. Sarah went home as the sun rose, exhausted and questioning her sanity. She researched the Templars obsessively for weeks, falling down the same rabbit holes her grandfather once had. She learned about the trials, the executions, the dissolution of the order. She read theories about what they'd been protecting. The Holy Grail, ancient texts, proof of something that could topple empires or religions. No one knew for certain. The Templars had taken their secrets to the grave, except they hadn't. Some of them had survived, hidden, waiting. 3 months later, Sarah received a package at her home. No return address. Inside was a letter, written in elegant handwriting, and a photograph. The photograph showed a young woman, Alara, standing in front of a cathedral somewhere in Europe. She looked healthy, alive. The letter was brief. "Dr. Chen, you showed mercy when others might not have. You kept our secret when it would have been easier to speak. For that, you have our gratitude. The war you glimpsed that night continues in the shadows. It always has. Most people live their entire lives without knowing the battles fought in the dark to protect them. Perhaps that's for the best. But you saw us, you helped us. And for that, you're under our protection now. Should you ever need us, light a candle at St. Catherine's Chapel on the anniversary of that October night. We'll know. We always know. The truth we protect is not ready for the world. Perhaps it never will be. But it must be protected nonetheless, until the day comes when humanity is ready to understand what lies beneath the foundations they've built their certainties upon. Until then, we remain. The last guardians of a truth too dangerous to speak. Thank you for your silence. It saved more lives than you'll ever know." It was signed with a simple 8-pointed cross. Sarah kept the letter in a locked drawer. She never told anyone what happened that night. But every October on the anniversary, she lights a candle at St. Catherine's Chapel. Not because she needs protection, but because somewhere out there, in the shadows between history and legend, the last Templars are still fighting, still protecting, still keeping a secret that the world isn't ready to know. And sometimes, in the flicker of that candle flame, she wonders what truth could possibly be worth dying for across 7 centuries. What knowledge could be so dangerous that it requires guardians who don't officially exist, protecting it against enemies who hunt in the dark? She'll probably never know. But on those quiet October nights, when she lights that candle and watches the flame dance against the chapel walls, she thinks she can feel them watching. The ghosts of an ancient order, the keepers of the impossible truth. And she keeps their secret because some mysteries are meant to stay buried, at least for now.